In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Half a day and welcome to another edition of In Full Zoom. I'm Nestor Licanto, and this week we're going to talk about how to get to the Philippines, because I know that Guam and the Philippines, of course, have had a very close relationship for many years, and I know that there are a lot of Filipino Guamanians that are anxious to get back to the Philippines once it opens up more freely, and a lot of Guamanians in general just want to go over the Philippines for like the normal weekend holiday where the wives go and get pampered and the men go and play golf. And so we've got, I'm pleased to introduce from the Philippine Consulate Office in Guam, Consul Alex Vallespin, who is the acting head of the station, and Ms. Ruby Fernandez, who is the administrative officer, in addition to some other new responsibilities, because they're sort of in transition at the Philippine Consulate Office up until early next year. So welcome, Alex and Ruby.
Afaday, Nes, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, let me start out with what we had talked about earlier, and that is what is the current, and I know it's been kind of a fluid situation, but what is the current Philippine government inbound travel policy as of this day?
I knew it that you will ask that. As a general rule, you know, the Philippine government at this point still does not allow non-essential travels to the Philippines. So this policy started in March 2020 during the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in the Philippines. Well, almost the same time that COVID-19 started here on Guam. So during that time, March 2020, the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases, or IATF for short, issued a resolution suspending visa issuance and the visa-free privilege or privileges, but the most common, and those living in Guam, they know the balikbayan privilege. So this affected thousands of former Filipinos who are now passport holders, and there are several thousands in Guam. And so, well, not just the former Filipinos, but also their foreign spouse and children, because as you know, balikbayan allows, or the benefits under the balikbayan privilege extends to the foreign spouse and children. Okay, and this March resolution of IATF only had a few exemptions. Well, number one, of course, the foreign spouse of Filipino citizens, foreign children of Filipino citizens, members of the diplomatic corps and international organizations, and the airline crew. So the pilots and the airline crew, because at that time, maybe around June, when we started limited air traffic going to the Philippines. But as months went by, the specifically sometime in August, the exemptions were expanded to allow number one, foreign partners of pregnant, take note, pregnant Filipino women who are in the Philippines, because the main purpose is for family reunification.
Right.
So the government, the Philippine government, also allowed the foreign partners of, as I said, pregnant Filipino women, with stress on pregnant. And then we also allowed the foreign parents of minor Filipino children. So the foreigner parents of Filipino minor children, of course, minor below 18, or children regardless of age, but with special needs. So the foreign parents of these children can travel to the Philippines. Let me emphasize that when I say exempt, they still have to apply for visa. No balikbayan privilege of visa-free yet. So I'm talking about March, I'm talking about August. And another set of foreigners allowed during the expanded exemptions, or when the exemptions were expanded, is those foreign seafarers who will board their ships stationed, docked, moored in the Philippines. But of course, subject to the submissions of documents, supporting documents. Also at that time, I think around August or June, July, the Philippine government also allowed some flexibility when it comes to foreigners needing emergency medical treatment. So if you or we've had we've submitted 25 at least requests for exemptions, because the process would be the foreigners seeking medical treatment in the Philippines would submit a request for exemption for travel restrictions addressed to us or to the Philippine Foreign Service Post, and then us here, or the Philippine Foreign Service Post, will submit that request for exemptions, of course with supporting documents, medical certificate, confinement schedule, etc., and even DOH, Department of Health, what do you call that? DOH clearance, because these patients should be directly transported to the hospital, because ordinarily arriving, perhaps you experience it, Nessa, no?
Yeah, you go straight
Arriving
to
passengers would be brought directly to the quarantine facilities. Okay, but for these patients needing emergency care, they should have a DOH clearance, Bureau of Quarantine clearance, so that they can be brought directly to the hospital. So the Philippine government realized that sometime in maybe June, July, so we allowed these kinds of foreigners needing emergency medical treatment in the Philippines. But just so our listeners will know, no, just to contextualize this flexibility given by the Philippine government, based on our experience, as I said, we submitted around 25 requests for exemptions for travel restrictions. We only received 3 approvals, and these approvals were all, as I said, medical emergency. What we call serious cases, like one requiring bypass operation, one needing treatment for prostate cancer, and another needing treatment for pancreatic cancer. So all other requests for exemptions like those, I would like to visit my dermatologist in Manila. That
it has to be an emergency, because I know as well as you do that hundreds of people a month go to Manila specifically for various types of medical treatment. But that's kind of been stopped, except for these very extreme emergency cases. Yeah.
And every time I conduct the oath-taking ceremony for those applying for dual citizenships, I usually bring this up, explaining to them that if you write us a letter saying that you need to go to the Philippines to see your doctors because you've been seeing that doctors for the longest time, the answer that we will receive from the IATF or from the Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs in Manila is that kind of treatment not available in Guam? Okay. Of course, I suppose it's available. And then the applicant would say, I've been seeing that doctor since I was in elementary school. But again, if the service, the medical practitioner equivalent here in Guam is available, then your request for exemption will surely be disapproved.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about the current pandemic situation in the Philippines, and then when do you think the travel restrictions will eventually be further relaxed?
Okay. Based on those resolutions issued by the IATF, as I said, it started in March and then relaxed in August. The effect or the obvious effects of these resolutions was the increase in visa and dual citizenship application in the consulate. Because former Filipinos were scrambling at that time to go to the consulate to apply for their dual citizenship, so that when we asked them the main reason, uncertainty of their jobs abroad, so that they would like to apply for dual citizenship so that if necessary, they can go right away readily to the Philippines in case of medical emergency or family emergencies in the Philippines. Again, those mainly affected by those resolutions were the former Filipinos abroad. But good news, starting December 7, I know you've heard of this, starting December 7, the IATF issued a resolution allowing former Filipinos to again enter the Philippines visa-free. And this visa-free benefit extends to their foreign spouse and children. Take note, traveling with them. Okay, so if the foreign spouse, foreign children of a former Filipino will not be traveling with the Filipino spouse or parent, they will not be allowed in. They will not even be issued visa. Okay, that's with former Filipinos. Contrast that with Filipino spouse. Okay, if you have a Filipino spouse, the foreign spouse and the foreign children can enter the Philippines visa-free when traveling with the Filipino spouse. Okay. In contrast with those former Filipinos, this foreign spouse and foreign children of a Filipino, when not traveling with the Filipino, can still enter the Philippines, but they have to apply for visa. And the Filipino kin, the Filipino spouse or the Filipino parent should be in the Philippines. So that's the main distinction. As to your question, how the current pandemic situation in the Philippines, I think the Philippine government has done a tremendous job putting this COVID-19 pandemic in control. But when I say putting this pandemic in control, it doesn't mean that there's no more transmission or zero transmission already. What it only means is that steadily, continually, the infection, the community transmission has been going down. In fact, in the last couple of weeks, the daily infection hovers between 1,100 to 1,900. But if you will look at the total infection in the Philippines as of yesterday is now around 448,000, with recoveries numbering 410. So you can see the recovery rate is very high, and the death rate in the Philippines is now roughly 8,500. In Southeast Asia, the Philippines is second to Indonesia. Indonesia is the worst hit country in Southeast Asia. Next is the Philippines. But Indonesia world rankings as of December 6, Indonesia, as in terms of number of COVID-19 infection, is ranked 20th in the world. The Philippines around 27 or 28.
Yeah.
Yes, Nes.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if you had any vision as to when there might be any further relaxation. I know that it's hard to look into that crystal ball and give a specific date, but have there been any indications at all when the government wants to reopen? Because at some point, economically, there is going to be a need to boost tourism. So has the Philippine Tourism Authority made any projections on when I'd like to see a reopening?
Well, with the positive news on vaccines, several pharmaceutical companies have their vaccines that will be soon available. In fact, in the Philippines, the President Duterte allowed the emergency use for medicines that are said to counter the effects of COVID-19. These are medicines, not yet the vaccine. But as I said, with the lowering of infection, this allows the government to slowly reopen the economy. Malls are open now. They're just discussing if minors 7 years old above will be allowed in. public utility vehicles are now allowed to ply their routes. Jeepneys, the jeepneys is there's
Is
so
bad.
many jeepneys
Yeah.
in the Philippines. Buses are allowed. The light rail transit (LRT) is now allowed to operate. All these are indications that the economy is slowly opening up. In fact, one indication is the lowering of the unemployment rate. Because as you know, in 2019, end of 2019, the unemployment rate in the Philippines were between 2 to 3%. Up to first quarter 2020, it increased to 5%. But during the second quarter, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, it went up to 17.7%, affecting roughly 8 million Filipinos. Okay, look at this, Ness. In the third quarter, it went down to 10%, the unemployment rate, and now it's hovering between 7.5 to 8% unemployment rate. Why? Because at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, the small, medium, and micro enterprises were forced to close down. And slowly they're now opening up. And even during the closing of these SMEs, services, food, delivery, slowly they introduced the what do you call that? Grab delivery, Food Panda Express. Even here on Guam, that happened, right? The curbside delivery. But at the start of the pandemic, we were all afraid. We do not know much about this virus, how it's transmitted. But slowly, as I said, now in the fourth quarter, the unemployment rate in the Philippines is down to 7.5 to 8%. So that's the projection that our economic planners are seeing for 2020. Not only the Philippines, all the economies around the world went south. The projection for the Philippines end of 2020, the GDP, the gross domestic product, will be -5 to -8%. However, our economic planners, because the Philippines has endured the worst effects of the pandemic. Why? Because of prudent financial spending and sound fundamentals. These sound fundamentals happened not just overnight. It's through the numerous administrations. So our economic planners project that for 2021, the GDP of the Philippines will grow between 6.5 to 7.5%. And we've been growing in the last couple of years, maybe last 8 years, our GDP has grown not lower than 5.5%.
Yeah.
The projection for this year is around 7%. However, COVID-19 struck. So for 2021, the projection for our GDP is between 6.5 to 7.5%. For 2022, it's 8 to 9% GDP, and I think that's very much attainable. Why? Because early this just a few weeks ago, the government passed into law what it calls the CREATE Act, or it's an acronym. It's the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentive for Enterprises. You call that CREATE. Essentially, this law will lower the corporate tax from 30% to 25%. So that's a big reduction, but not instant, no. For 2022 to 2023, I think it will go down to 28%.
It's a gradual,
yes,
decline.
gradual reduction.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Come 2027, the corporate tax rate will be down to 25%.
Yeah.
So that's a big reduction, and in that law there are so many other incentives that will be given to to foreign investors who
Yeah,
would like to invest in the Philippines.
I was going to mention that the Philippine consulate over the past few weeks and a couple of months, I think has been putting out sort of notices for webinars for foreign investment in the
Yes,
Philippines. Yeah.
a few weeks ago, I think it was November, I think mid of November, our Department of Trade and Industry launched its Make It Happen campaign. It's a campaign that aims to attract foreign investors in the Philippines. So the Make It Happen campaign of the DTI and the passing of the CREATE law go hand in hand. Again, the purpose is to attract foreign investors in the Philippines. But we would like to attract foreign investors, but with our population, which stands now at 110 million, and with the remittances of OFWs, with the money coming from the BPOs, all this can spur economic activities. But of course, we would like to add that other component, the foreign investors in the Philippines. And some of our lawmakers are also talking of easing the restrictions in the Constitution as to the ownership, foreign ownership, because as it is now, it's 60-40. Foreign companies can only own a maximum of 40% of a company. The 60% should be Filipino owned. So again, our lawmakers are looking into easing that restrictions, maybe increasing the foreign ownership beyond 40%. So all of this will hopefully spur economic activities in the Philippines.
Yeah, and there's been Philippine companies that have invested in Guam. I know that Jollibee, of course, is one, and
Yes.
Max is going to be opening pretty soon too. Yeah.
Yes. Ruby, can you talk about this Max's? Because honestly, Max's executives have not approached us. Well, it's something that we expect during the grand opening, because it happened when Jollibee opened in June 2019. All the executives went there, and we were talking with the executives. They were very positive with this reopening of Jollibee store in Guam, and their projection at that time, it was 2019 June, that they will open 5 more stores in the next 5 years. But of course, this projection, this plan has to change because of what happened in 2020. But still, if you were one of those following the Philippine Stocks Exchange, again, most of the stocks went south at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, and Jollibee is one of those blue chip stocks, which is now going up. So it's an indication that with the economy improving, they can their plan of establishing or opening 5 more stores in Guam would be, I think, pursued. And similar to Max Restaurant has several overseas branches. Middle East, marami. There are lots of Max store. In the Southeast Asia region also. And if you notice, Jollibee's main product is the Chicken Joy. It's chicken.
Yes.
Have you heard that JT Manukan opened here also in 2019? That's Joel Talk restaurant. It's Joel also Manukan. And Max's Fried Chicken's main product also is chicken.
Chicken.
I know Filipinos love chicken.
I guess
however,
so.
for us, Ruby, we have some kind of skin allergies that prevent us from consuming as much chicken as we would like to consume.
Yeah,
but
I wanted to ask.
You're correct.
I wanted to ask you also
Filipino companies would want to go here and invest in Guam. Why? Because out of the 160,000 population of Guam, 26 to 30% of that, not I cannot say all Filipinos, but with Filipino ethnicity. And they go to the Philippines often, and when they go to the mall, they will surely see Jollibee, Max, JT, and other Filipino restaurants. So Guam is really
it's an opportunity for them, absolutely. Yeah. I wanted to ask you also. The consulate also put out some announcements about Fiestas Filipinas.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. And we've got about maybe 5 minutes left.
Yes, it's a, with this pandemic, we cannot really celebrate fiestas. In fact, in the news this morning or yesterday, President Duterte issued an order that Filipinos should uh, do away with Christmas parties because we love Christmas parties. And Christmas parties, you gather people, you gather your friends. Uh, that's a dangerous activity at this time. So similar with these fiestas, we cannot hold this in person. So the Department of Tourism, in partnership with other departments like us in the Foreign Service, came up with this Fiestas Filipinas so that the celebration can be done online. We have celebrations in January, the flower festival, the ati-atihan. So for dinagyang. So for every month we have these festivals in the Philippines frequented by tourists. But now with the travel restrictions, with all of these uh, restrictions, we cannot hold that. And of course, that would be an ingredient for community transmission if everyone has COVID. So we're doing it online. So
And
that's basically it.
how can people join it online or participate online?
We will be waiting for the mechanics for this, but uh, our cultural officer, the cultural officers around uh, in the Philippine Foreign Service will be handling this. I'm just I do not have my cultural officer here, but once we receive the mechanics, we will post it in our social media accounts. We will let the people know, and we will really advertise. We will really disseminate the information for these Fiestas Filipinas. Philippines and Guam are known for so many festivals. We love eating. We love gathering people without being with friends. So surely in the next couple of days we will have the mechanics for this Fiesta Filipinas.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises Inc. GU Self Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises Inc.
Yeah, and I know for a fact, that there is a pent-up demand from so many people from Guam to go back to the Philippines and to visit friends and family and just the different restaurants and golf courses and all the other, fun things to do in the Philippines. So hopefully, with this emerging vaccines, and there's so many companies now that apparently are coming out with the vaccines that we'll be able to get back to slowly but surely get back to some sense of normalcy where people from the Guam will be able to go to Manila like they always used to. We've got a couple of minutes left. Maybe give you an opportunity to just greet the audience out there. Wish them a Merry Christmas.
Ruby, take it away.
Well, thank you. Clarify things about the situation in the Philippines and how we also continue to be of service to our fellow Filipinos here as well as former Filipinos. And we just like, first of all, to tell them that to be patient because as we all know that most Filipinos would really love to go back to the Philippines, especially the holidays. But, for health reasons, the protocols, the guidelines that the Philippine government is implementing right now, we echo them in our foreign service posts, and we try our best to help and provide the services that they need at this time. But we really request for the more patience actually, And then, it's only the pandemic is not. We really hope that the pandemic will not really stay here for long, and that's why we hope that the vaccine will come out soon, and to help us go back to our normal or regular daily activities. And we just have to be patient that we try to stay where we are right now. It is best to stay with our families at this moment. And if we cannot, pray that the pandemic will end, and we will be together again soon. So we wish everyone also the safe and healthy Christmas,
Happy
because
holidays.
that's
All right.
important at this time. So thank
Thank
you
you very
very much.
much.
You know,
Appreciate it.
Nes, we have been implementing the online appointment system. And the first time we implemented it was in sometime June, I think, or May. We have expanded it. Before it was just 2 weeks open slots, now 2 months. But still, people would say, we cannot get an appointment. Perhaps, how did you apply for visa? Why didn't you call me?
I just went there and asked.
So it's
just,
online appointment system. And
Yeah.
again, I will echo Ruby's message. Please be patient with us. It's PCOR 1. We divided ourselves into 2 teams so that, well, it used to be headed by 2 consuls, but now I'm alone, so I have to report every day. The thing is, most of our frontline personnel also handle several other tasks inside the consulate, because we divided. For example, Ruby here is not just an administrative officer, she's also political officer. She handles the request for exemption for visa applicants. So we are multitasking. So I just hope that with the introduction of so many vaccines, we will be soon back to normalcy, so that we will be able to again provide consular services the way we used to deliver it. And I would like to mention, not just in Guam, we also cover Saipan, CNMI, Palau, RMI, and FSM. So there are consular services which require face-to-face transactions, just like passport renewal, dual citizenship. The reports of birth, reports of marriage can be mailed to us, but passports, and this is the main problem being faced by our compatriots in those islands, because we cannot travel yet. Expired passports cannot be extended. Only expiring passports can be extended, and only once. So again, we appeal to our kababayans in all those islands. We will be there. I'm itching to travel to those islands just to deliver a consular service. We will be there, I hope, by Feb.
All right. Well, you got the message out, Alex. Appreciate it. Thank you. Alex Vallespin.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, Nes.
Alex Vallespin.
Enjoy your stay in the
Fernandez.
Philippines.
I will.
Have you played golf there already?
Not yet. Just got here.
Thank you.
Alex
thank you.
And Ruby Fernandez, thank you very much for joining us of the Philippine Consulate General Office on Guam.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm Nestor Licanto. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you again next week on In Full Zoom. Till then, take care. Be safe.
Bye.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.